Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Jake, Zach, and Kyle now. We have decided to bring back Kyle permanently. He had enough hot takes that we figured he was a good addition to the show, and it was funnier to see Bender react more. So we're going to keep Kyle around. He's going to stick on the show for a little bit. We do have a good show planned for today. We're going to jump into a lot of the NBA playoffs matchups that are going on, a lot of interesting series. So we're going to break down some of the things that are going on there. And then we're also going to include some MLB stuff to wrap up the show today. Kyle does bring some more expertise in that area. So we're excited to talk more about baseball as well. So we're going to kick off just by talking about which series has been most interesting to us so far. Bender, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so what I find the most interesting so far is the Clippers and Suns series. Obviously, I proved Kyle wrong in saying that the Clippers could compete without Paul George. So, of course, I'm going to bring that up just to try and fire him up a little bit. But I think game one kind of shows how Russ can impact a game without his offense. He locked up KD for majority of the game, if not just the first quarter alone, proved that. KD did not score in the whole first quarter. He did have his run in the second. You knew he was going to get going eventually. That's how all scorers work. Um, and then the bench, the bench combined for 34 points, and extra starter that is usually on the bench, Eric Gordon, had 19. So I think that's kind of interesting that their depth showed up like I said they would. How consistent that'll be, I don't know, because obviously Kawhi had some help. KD was kind of left on the back burner that game. So we'll see if Devin Booker can help him out. CP3 can help him out. The other series that I want to mention is the Bucks and Heat series, and that's simply because of Giannis getting hurt. I think that makes things a little bit more interesting, and we'll talk about some injuries later. But I think that makes a big impact and actually gives the Heat a chance after they take game one.
Honestly, you stole both of my answers, mainly because tonight is actually while we're recording this in a couple hours, it's going to be the Suns Clippers game, which is going to be game two. And Scott Foster, I saw, was officiating it. And I don't know if you guys know the stat, but Chris Paul is 2-17 when he plays versus Scott Foster. It almost feels like. So we'll see. I'm not feeling that confident anymore, to be honest. Like, I don't know. The Clippers did play really well, and I think there's a lot of room improvement for the Suns, but still, like that kind of stat that freaks me out a little bit for sure. And then on the flip side, also I like the Heat Bucks just because like I have no clue what's gonna go. I saw earlier that Giannis is doubtful for game two. So I'm not sure if he's gonna play. That obviously sounds like he's not, but honestly, Bobby Portis, when he's been in the starting lineup, has been very solid, and I expect Drew Holiday to have have another good game. So we'll see, but honestly, I think it go either way with both series.
Yeah, both are interesting to this point. It is crazy. You mentioned the stat with Russ locking up KD. He also locked up Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I think I saw somewhere he guarded the three of them for like 57 possessions, and they shot like 2 of 6 total in those possessions or something like that. It was so he did definitely affect the game. A lot of people are talking about Giannis's injury in that series as well, but not a lot of people are talking about Hero's injury. I saw something today that said the earliest he could come back is the NBA Finals, so he's out indefinitely. It'll be interesting to see if Giannis can make a comeback at some point in that series. I think another one that's interesting to me because of what Bender and I talked about a few podcasts ago is the Kings Warriors series. Even though at this point it is 2-0, I think a lot of people were expecting the Warriors to come out. They're the defending champs. They have all the experience and everything. But I've been saying it over and over. The Sacramento Kings analytically are the most clutch team in the league. And De'Aaron Fox showed it. Sabonis showed it. They're up 2-0 in a couple of close games where they had to scratch and fight. If they can pick up one of them in Golden State, it gets really interesting. And obviously, there was a bunch of stats about Golden State being down 0-2 now as defending champs, and no one's ever made a run back to the finals after that, and all those kind of things that are coming out now. But I think that series deserves some love too, because those have been a couple of good games, and the Kings deserve their credit. They really do at this point.
Yeah, and
See if they can close it out.
Quick pause. De'Aaron Fox actually won the clutchest player of the year
Couple
before the
hours ago.
start of the Cavs Knicks game tonight. So got to give him credit as well.
Also, quick
Yeah.
question: who do you guys think is at fault, Draymond or Sabonis?
Mm.
Because Sabonis did grab his leg, but also you're just gonna stomp on a man like that. That's
I think it's Sabonis. I think just because of Draymond's reputation, he's going to get that kind of punishment. Just reputation. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
dig too far into that.
I think it's a tough play. I feel like the best way you can actually think about it is if you're in either one of those situations. So if I'm Sabonis and I'm fighting for a rebound, and he did have kind of a dirty play trying to pull down Klay Thompson right before that as well. But if I'm Sabonis at that point, I'm on the ground, I'm like reaching up to cover my face. You can accidentally grab someone by accident. I understand that. Like I don't agree with what Sabonis did. I think it's kind of dirty as well, but okay, I kind of get it. And then from Draymond's perspective, I kind of get it too, because if you are starting to run full speed and someone grabs your leg, think about trying to run and someone like grabs your ankle. Like, what is your reaction? Like, you kind of kind of like hop and skip kind of a thing. So for him, like he probably stomped harder than he needed to, but also that is the natural reaction of what your body would do in that situation. So honestly, I think they're both just at fault. I think Draymond gets the brunt of it because of what Bender said. He has the reputation for it, but they probably both had something to do with it. So, but what do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a dual dual at fault. But honestly, like at the same time, Draymond obviously went overboard. Like I just can't imagine just curb stomping a kid because he grabbed my leg. Like obviously he's gonna do something, but he overreacted like he always does. And then he's walking out of the game. He's waving to the fans, like they're
I
flipping
think
him off.
You're
I think that
you're
was
right
the
about the
worst part.
overreacting.
That's
Exactly.
that's the worst part because he was like taunting the fans and stuff then at that point, and that's where I was just like, you're not going to win any love doing that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to a couple of the injuries that Bender mentioned earlier. A couple of big injuries to start the playoffs in multiple different series. Bender, what are your takes on all the injuries and how they're going to affect some of these series? You got Giannis, Ja, Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I was gonna say specifically when we talk about the injuries in the playoffs so far, you talk about Ja and Giannis are the main ones. Obviously, Tyler Hero is a main piece for the Heat, but they are an 8 seed. They're not a 1 or 2 seed, so it's more impactful for the teams that are like have expectations. So I already had the Lakers winning, as most people know, but I do think the Lakers win this series in 6. Tyus Jones is still solid enough to run the offense, so I think they can steal a game or two. The Lakers are bound to not shoot as well from 3 the next game or two as well. They shot lights out, so I expect that to kind of come down to earth. But even with that, they'll still win the series. And I think the record with Tyus Jones running at point without Ja is 10-8. So it's serviceable. It's not like they're going to plummet or drop off or anything like that. In regards to Giannis, like we said, like earlier, makes it interesting. I think Giannis being out doesn't hurt them. They kind of also stayed afloat without him throughout this season. Drew Holiday steps up big. Chris Middleton was missing part of the season for that as well. I think this kind of just gives them a chance, like all the role players a chance, and for Chris Middleton to kind of catch on fire, for Giannis to come back and get things rolling.
Yeah, I did see earlier that jaw, it wasn't a fracture, so there's actually no like permanent damage there or anything. But he is questionable. So there is a chance that he'll play. I'd put it at like what 25-30% chance maybe, but it's not very high. But there is always the chance. I think they'll probably play it safe though.
Yeah, I would guess that they play it safe and don't play him. If Memphis can steal back game 2 and then head back to LA 1-1, I bet Ja plays game 3 though. That'd be
Mhm.
my guess. If they lose that game, I feel like he has to play 2 though. So he probably gets a 1 game absence. He probably moves into that like 70 to 80% range coming back for game 3. That'd be my guess. Yeah, the Giannis injury doesn't feel like as big of a deal to me either. I think that the Bucks already have so much depth. Kyle mentioned earlier Bobby Portis too. He plays really well.
Porter.
Whatever it is, you stick him in the starting lineup and he becomes a world beater. So I think the Bucks will be fine. I think obviously it changes the game plan drastically when you lose Giannis to start the series there in game 1. But Budenholzer's a good coach. They have enough really high quality guys on that team. Drew Holiday will step up. Middleton will step up. Brooke Lopez will step up. They'll figure it out. And I think that's probably going to be just like a 5 or 6 game series, 6 if the Heat get lucky. But it will be interesting. Hopefully there aren't any more injuries because I feel like those first couple of games in the playoffs, it was like back to back to back, and I was like, holy crap! Like, this is how the playoffs are going to be. Like, it's going to be kind of like ruin it almost if it's going to be consistently that bad.
It was all game ones. I was worried about Anthony Davis for a part of that game too.
Oh yeah,
The
I forgot
True,
Clippers.
about that
true.
too.
Yeah. Ugly, very ugly.
That's why we call Anthony Davis the glass man around here. Um, So anyway,
Something,
moving
get his
on.
bones checked, man.
Yeah, for sure. He needs something checked. He needs bubble wrap is what he needs. So just to fire up Kyle a little bit here, we're gonna talk about the Sixers. So Kyle, I kind of know your answer already, but are you worried about the Sixers?
Um, in the next series, yes. And honestly, I do think this is the best. This is going to be a crazy take for me, just because of my previous takes. I think this is the best that Joel Embiid has ever played, ever, at this current moment, because he's allowing his teammates. This is what I've always wanted from him. And if he did this in the Toronto series, we'd be champions right now, which was my previous point. So he is allowing other people to score. He is, as soon as he gets doubled, he's just moving the ball and he's allowing his teammates to make plays. He's not trying to force anything. He's playing well. He's playing actually like stellar defense, and he's just playing his role. He's rebounding. He's putting up 20 to 26 a night. You know, that's all we need from him. If we have Maxey scoring, I don't know, what do you have, 33? Tobias
Yeah,
has been in,
33.
yeah, Tobias has been in 20 every single night. Like, I think even with a bad Harden performance, they did decent. Now, that being said, I do think the Nets are going to win at least one of the next two, just because their shooting has been abysmal lately. And that's not going to stay like that. There's no shot. So I imagine that Dinwiddie heats up. Bridges had a bad game too. I imagine he is a good game. And honestly, I think Cameron Johnson will continue to stay hot just because he's been hot game one and game two, more so in the first half of game two. But um, what has really stuck out to me has been Doc's adjustments, because in game one, Bridges had like a really good first half, really bad second half. Game two, Cam Johnson had a really good first half, really bad second half. So I think his adjustments have been very good, and I don't think he's getting enough credit for that, to be honest.
Yeah, their zone kind of messed them
Yeah.
up initially as well when they got into that in the second half. And to build on your point, Tobias had 20 and 12, Embiid had 20, 19, and 7. And that was
Yeah.
in a game where Embiid was getting double teamed at the 3-point line, not just the post. So got to keep in mind how all these other guys are performing when that's happening. So
Yeah, I like your point about Doc Rivers too. I think if you look back at the past couple of years and you look at the Sixers teams, the main complaints that people have had and the reason for the playoff losses has been, lack of adjustments, lack of a bench, lack of a good backup big guy. Paul Reed has been excellent so far in that backup
Very
big
true.
guy role. He's come in and he's really stabilized that unit, I think. I saw an article talking about how James Harden is getting a lot more comfortable with him in that role too.
Mm.
You mentioned Doc Rivers' adjustments. I think the zone was awesome. He definitely outcoached Jacques Vaughn in that second half. We were texting about it a little bit as it was happening too. For some reason, they stopped doubling Embiid, and as soon as they did, he put a couple of buckets on their head and even missed a couple of shots he probably should have made at the rim too. And then on top of that, the bench has played well. Melton missed a couple of shots, but he still had his moments. McDaniels is a solid role player. I don't even think Niang got up a shot in game two. I don't even know if he had a single shot. I really don't know if
I
he
feel
did.
like he
I
had a
was
three early, but other than that,
Maybe
he was
three
pretty
early. Yeah.
non-existent.
I was talking to my dad about this too when we were watching the game. Obviously, like my dad's a Sixers fan as well, so we were talking, and it just looked like Niang wasn't there to play yesterday, and I feel like he's going to be somebody we need for our bench, not just Melton, not just McDaniels. I think everybody needs to have
Yeah.
their fair share, and he just
Yeah.
looked slow and like just didn't look like he wanted to play defense, just things like that. So I think that needs to
Yeah.
figure itself out.
Yeah. But again, if you look at, past Sixers teams and things we would have complained about, they would have lost that game last night. Harden didn't have a good night. Cameron Johnson was really hot early. They went down 10 in the first half. Sixers teams we've watched before would not have responded the way that they did last night. So that's what's giving me the most confidence about the Sixers is that the normal things that you want to poke holes in, you really can't. They're backup big situations in a great spot. They have enough bench pieces that if one guy isn't cutting it, they can play other guys. I think I even saw Daniel House got some playing time last night. You
Right.
mentioned Yang didn't really want to come to play. He put in House, and immediately House comes in, snags a big board, gets the offense moving. So there's a lot of depth to the Sixers team that hasn't been there. I think it's probably true that the Nets do pick up one of the next two games. It would be hard for me to imagine a full sweep because, like Kyle said, they do have good shooters in that team. Joe Harris has been a non-factor. Seth Curry's been a non-factor. It's
He did
bound to
have a
happen.
good second half, though. Seth Curry
Yeah,
popped off a little
yeah,
bit.
a little bit, but not to the point where Seth Curry could in a playoff game because he'll give you
Right.
31 playoff game just randomly, and it's hard to imagine him not doing that one of the next two games against his stepfather and former team. You're thinking that's going to happen, probably, right?
Yeah,
So,
unless
like,
he's a
yeah,
double agent.
yeah, Right, unless he's double agent. But yeah, I do agree the Nets pick up one of the next two games. I think it's probably a 5-game series. They ended back home in Philly. But the next series that they'll play will be against the Celtics, most likely. What do we think about that series if we're going to talk about really being worried about the Sixers? Because the Nets are one topic. We can talk about the things we like to see or don't like to see. The Celtics, that's going to be the first real matchup for the Sixers of the playoffs. Should you be worried for that? I see Bender making faces.
Yeah, and I'll make this quick. Just give Kyle time to say something stupid, but I think my major concern going into the playoffs was the involvement of Tobias Harris, and I think that's been proven to be a non-issue, putting up 20 in each of the first two games. So that gives me hope going in. Maxey didn't have two bad games in a row. Obviously, he went off for 33 yesterday in game two. So I think having all four contribute, no matter how they have to, because what the Nets were doing in game one specifically was if Embiid's in the game, we're doubling Embiid. If Embiid's out of the game and Harden's in the game, they're doubling Harden. So it's like two separate game plans and two different ways of looking at it. That's why the role players got the amount of shots that they got. So people might think, oh, James Harden's going to not show up in the playoffs. Okay, maybe he'll do the 3 for 13 thing every now and then, but at least Maxey, Tobias, and Embiid are playing well. And you typically need that big three to win. So,
yeah. I think another interesting kind of point here is that the scheme that the Nets are running is because of the personnel they have, right? They're doubling Embiid. They're trying to rotate all over the place. The Celtics and the Bucks, they won't do that, right? They're going to play Robert Williams. They're going to play Al Horford. If the Sixers make it to play the Bucks, they're going to play Giannis and Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis. They're not going to do those same kind of small ball things that the Nets are doing either. So even if you are concerned about all the double teams and them throwing that, like that throwing James Harden and Joel off the rhythm, I don't think it's that big of a concern going into the next series. And the last thing I'll add before we move on to the next topic here is that in 2 games, they've held the Nets to 101 points and 82 points, right? 82, 84?
Yeah. Close.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Not a lot.
Not
I think it's
a lot.
84.
That's really good defense in the first 2 playoff games. That also is a change from prior Sixers teams. Like Kyle mentioned, Embiid's a lot more locked in on the defensive end. So I think it's another glimmer of hope for the Sixers. They can really lock a team down. Holding the team to 84 points in a playoff game is no joke.
Yeah, for sure.
That being said, we're a second round exit. There's no shot we're past the Celtics. I know you guys made great points.
Now we're moving on.
You made some great points and everything, and I'm just here to ruin it all. Second round.
Yeah, we're just gonna saying something stupid, so we're moving on.
Kyle is the kind of Sixers fan that wants to keep talking down about the team until they actually win it all. That way, he doesn't get himself disappointed.
I mean, bro, they have broken my heart so many times. I just can't I can't give myself hope anymore. It's been a long 20 years of just
a long 20
and we win
years. Okay.
And we win that Raptors series if it doesn't quadruple bounce off the rim. Moving on.
Yeah.
So obviously Zach had high hopes for the Kings coming into the playoffs. I didn't.
Like the
I'm kind of proven to be. I'm proven to be wrong about this one. But do you think that the Warriors can make a comeback down 0-2? Kyle, we'll start with you.
Do I think they can make a comeback? That is a great question. I think they can stretch it to 7 games. Do they win? Probably not. I just think that, like Zach has pointed out many, many times, the clutchness of the Kings is it's way up there, especially with De'Aaron Fox, the clutch player of the year, as we learned earlier. Also, I don't think Sabonis has been playing his best basketball lately. He's been really struggling, and they're still, winning 2 games. Malik Monk off the bench has been incredible. He's putting up like 30 a game almost. De'Aaron Fox obviously has played amazing, and they have so much depth. They have Herter. Herter hasn't been playing well, but he's actually a very good player. And when he came off injury, I think he gave him 27 and 29. So there's just so much explosive nature on the offense there, and they have some good defensive pieces in Davion Mitchell that
locking up Steph.
Yeah, right. And I know there was a funny quote coming out about De'Aaron Fox talking about having to guard Steph and how hard that was and stuff, but he did a decent job. Last game, Steph was basically, I don't want to say non-existent, but by Steph standards, non-existent.
And they closed the game with Mitchell on Steph to give Fox that break on offense.
Right. Yeah. And they have the flexibility to do that because the team is just so, it's so well built. So I think there's a lot of accountability there. They always talk about that, how good the coaching staff is, and I really think they can make a good run. So I'm gonna go with the Kings for sure.
I think another interesting piece about this is Wiggins hasn't played for so long, and now he's just jumping back into a really competitive playoff series. I think if Wiggins has been playing for the past couple of weeks leading up to the playoffs, and that's built back in, maybe that's different. But he's trying to shake off some rust still, and he's a really high quality player. He's still one of the best players on that Warriors roster, but it's making a difference. I think he shot 2 for 8 from three last game. He's not as twitchy of a defender, I think, as he would be if he had just been in playing shape. And not that he should have been playing, because obviously if he was dealing something like he's got to go deal with that. But I think it does make a difference for that team. Because when I think about coming down the stretch, who's guarding De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in a pick and roll for the Warriors? Like, yeah, you have Draymond there, but like who?
I say not Draymond if he's going to get ejected.
Well, especially that,
Just
because
stomp on
especially if you go into game three and Draymond's not there. So I don't know. I feel like the Warriors are actually a little outmatched. Klay Thompson still shot well, and it didn't even matter.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Kings just have too many pieces at this point. They're already up 2-0. If they steal one of these games in San Francisco, it's going to be over.
See, I don't necessarily like that you're talking about Wiggins more than you are Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole's played like absolute dog water the last 2 games. Tried to keep it PG because he's pissing me off. Not repping Michigan very well right now, but
Trying to keep it
you can't,
JP.
yeah, yeah, that. But like you can't not perform in the playoffs after getting a bag in the offseason either. Like you have expectations for a reason, live up to them, and then you see him goofing off on the bench,
I
and
saw
you're
that
down,
too.
and
Yeah.
not playing in the fourth quarter. Like, are you good? Like I'm confused. Like there's something going on over there. But in the case of that, I think the Warriors are done. They're not coming back. They can't win on the road to save their lives. Um, can't take care of the ball. That's been a big problem. And the Kings are a big transition team, #1 offense in the league, and part of it is because of that. It's just the dynasty's done. Mark it now. The dynasty's done. You're going to see Draymond leave next year. He's going to opt out, or the Warriors just won't want him back. And you might even see Wiggins or Poole get moved, just
I
because
hope
some of these guys are not playing or not playing well.
I hope somebody includes that clip in like a TikTok montage where it's like the dynasty is over, and then it just shows them like winning 3 more rings or something. That'd be great. They
Go
should.
for it.
Hey,
Go
TikTok
for it.
It,
editors, use
it
this.
would
Use this.
it would be awesome. I mean, it sucks though, because I do tend to agree with him. They're getting old. They're getting old, and all of their games have aged really well because they're all great shooters and stuff. But I do agree that I think the dynasty's over. If they don't pull out this series against the Kings, it's hard to imagine Poole or Wiggins not being moved. It's hard, especially Poole. I think Poole probably gets moved quicker than Wiggins does, even though there's probably going to be more interest for Wiggins. I think Draymond probably leaves in free agency. I think that's probably a done deal because they're not going to pay him a max or anything close to it. I don't know. I tend to think that the Warriors are kind of done too. If they can't pull out this series, they have to blow it up because they also have one of the highest payrolls of any team. They're like so far into luxury tax at this point. I don't even know how their owner in this economy is paying for all of that. I really don't know. Must be doing something right. I don't know his investment strategy, but yeah, it's hard to imagine that team sticking together after this season, which is sad. Wouldn't it be crazy to see Steph Curry on a different team?
I can't even imagine. I don't want to think about that.
That'll never happen. I think Steph and Clay will stay together, and then the rest will get moved around somehow. Also, Clay is due for an extension, and he wants max money, so that's something to keep in mind when you're moving people.
Yeah. Do you think they give it to him?
Yes, because I think if you have Steph and Clay on the same team, you always have a chance.
So if you're the Warriors going into this offseason, you give Klay Thompson a max contract.
I give him a max, and I let Draymond walk, free up money, and I free up money by trading Poole for another young piece.
I don't think I'd give Klay Thompson a max contract right now. Kyle, would
But
you?
what if he says, I want the max and that's it? And then like if you do that, then you're opening the door for Curry to leave, you know? Like if I feel like if Clay's gone, Curry's gone. So you wouldn't pay it?
I wouldn't pay it. And here's the reason why. you already are at the point with your team where you realize that they're aging. Like, not that I'm gonna say like, what's the point of keeping Steph and Clay around? But I don't think Steph and Clay by themselves are gonna win you a championship anymore. I don't think that's gonna happen. You need to have a solid roster constructed around them. They're so far into the luxury tax with all this stuff. You paid Jordan Poole a max contract. So I don't know. I feel like I'd be much more inclined to do like a sign and trade with Clay Thompson than I would to actually give him a max because he's getting old. He's had a history of like really significant injuries now at this point. He's not the same defender that he was. I don't think I would do it.
No, no,
It's also name value though. Like that's what sells tickets. Sorry. Go ahead, Bender. Because like that's how they're gonna get money.
Hard to disagree
was
with
gonna
that. It is
say-
name value, but
well, I was gonna
But I don't
say
know,
that's
like-
why I would keep.
I don't know.
That's why I would keep Steph and Clay together and keep Wiggins, and then I think you do a sign and trade with Draymond instead because I think there's some kind of rumors floating around with him going to the Dallas Mavericks potentially, and I think one of the guys that are going to walk away from the Mavericks is Christian Wood. So I don't think it'd be a terrible addition for them because
Good walk.
like they like their smaller bigs anyway. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
like that
trading
idea.
Jordan Poole, or at that point, if you get rid of Draymond, you might keep Jordan Poole, just because those two butted heads. So I feel like they're going to make one of them leave, whether it's opting out or trade. So I guess we'll just have to see
Yeah.
how that pans out. But
It'd be interesting. Well, I mean, I feel like you could let Draymond walk regardless, but you could sign and trade both of them even. I don't know. I feel like the return that you could get for the name value of Clay Thompson right now could be just as good as keeping Clay Thompson around. I don't
do you
know.
want to
That's
talk crazy for a second?
Probably a hot take, but
Do you want to talk crazy for a second?
Go for it. Full send.
talk to me crazy, Bender.
Thought about this yesterday. I kind of want the Warriors to trade Andrew Wiggins and maybe Draymond or Poole, whichever second they want to add in there. And I want them to go for Jimmy Butler.
He aren't gonna do that. I don't think.
If Jimmy wants to
Hmm.
walk, which I think he'll want to walk, then I think it's very, very possible. Because Jimmy Butler's your
Hmm.
stat sheet guy. If you want to get rid of Draymond, never know.
It's possible. I don't think that they would agree to that though. And I don't think Jimmy's gonna want out after this year necessarily. Like as long as they can make a dent in this playoff series, like I think
Yeah.
there's a chance he stays around for at least one more year. Maybe that happens in the future. I don't know, but I feel like he's just gonna play his contract out.
If you want to
But
talk really
nobody
crazy,
else-
how about a package for LeBron?
After
Let's
they
not
win
talk
the
about that.
championship, yeah, Bender thinks they're gonna win it all. He's gonna leave.
Let's not talk about that. Yeah, no. That won't happen, I don't think.
Zion,
But here's
Alright.
that won't happen either. I don't think the
Draymond
Warriors
and
are
Poole
a
for
team to
Zion.
gamble. But I don't think the Warriors are a team to gamble like that. But like, think about it. Jimmy Butler, do you think he's really going to stay? He's had no help for the last how many years? It's literally just him carrying. Bam
He
is
hasn't
not
watched
playing
Kevin
up to
Love.
all-star level.
Did
But he's-
you all right, hang on, time out. You did not just say Bender did not just say they give no help, and Kyle responded with they got him Kevin Love. He's in his is
But,
Kevin
hey.
Love in his 60s? Kevin Love is 60 now, right?
70. I have to check his birthday, but close.
He actually plays wheelchair basketball. But, but no, like Kyle Lowry's old, Kevin Love's old. Bam doesn't contribute on the offensive end. Yes, he's a good defender and he's very versatile. But then Tyler Hero usually struggles here and there as well for the last couple of years. Like it's
And
either
they
that or
don't
get
let-
him help.
And they don't let Duncan Robinson touch the floor.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
That's the same
Comes
thing
in,
with
shoots a
Christian
three,
Wood.
makes it.
You talk about
Yeah,
Christian Wood.
Christian Wood. Yeah, that whole So Jason Kidd should be out, dude. He should be
Absolutely.
out. That can be another topic for discussion.
At a later date.
I wouldn't say he should be out. So yeah, we might want to say that, but I don't think he's out.
Oh God,
Yeah,
that's gonna be.
we can talk about that next time. But anyway, we're gonna jump into the last segment here. We are gonna jump into some MLB stuff. So we're gonna set a timer for some rapid fire. Bender, do you want to take it away? You
Get my
can let me
baseball
know
hat
when.
on. Sorry, baseball hat on. I'm locked in.
Bender, you can give me a nod when you want me to start the timer, and then we'll get it rolling.
Sounds good. So Kyle's never done this before, but we basically ask a series of questions within a minute. He can answer the questions as fast as possible if he wants to. If not, he is able to feel free to build on it if he wants to as well. So Zach, whenever you'd like to go, and Kyle, whenever you're ready, since you're over here looking around.
I was
All
looking for a
confused.
baseball bat. I can't find it. So I'll stick with just the hat for right now.
All right, we're actually going to do a minute and 30 seconds here too, just to give a little bit more time if there are any explanations and stuff to get a few more questions in.
Yeah.
So a minute and 30 seconds starting right now.
Is Aaron Nola still good enough to be the Phillies' ace pitcher?
Yes, I do think so. He's been struggling. I think that's gonna like come with acclimation to I almost said shot clock, the pitch clock. Because that's just a whole flip up for pitchers, especially Nola, who's kind of, I wouldn't say traditionally a slower pitcher, but he's not exactly the quickest. So I think once he gets used to that, he'll start to come around. Just like Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler had a decent pitching performance today, but he still let up 4 runs in 5 or 6 innings. So it'll be interesting to see.
Building on that, what are your quick thoughts on the new pitch clock?
Pitch clock. I like it. As a viewer, like today, they had a double header because yesterday got rained out, so they can actually fit like 2 full 9-inning games into one day because it's obviously faster. And I feel like when you're at a game, sometimes they do drag on. And I go to a lot of Phillies games, but when it's not a playoff game, sometimes you're there and you're just like you're waiting for long innings to end, and you can be an inning for like an hour. Sometimes it used to be so. Nowadays, I do think it's a good change. I think it'll take pitchers a little bit to get used to, but they'll come around, I'm sure.
The Tampa Bay Rays started red hot. Are they a faker or not?
Baker, next question.
That's fair. What is your way too early World Series matchup and prediction?
Phillies versus whoever wants to lose. Next question.
And that is the timer. That is the timer. That is the timer. I don't know too much about baseball, but I will say that pitch clock has made me more of a fan just because I feel like it's more watchable.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Like for someone who doesn't watch a ton of baseball, doesn't know a ton about it, it makes me more inclined to watch a game and pay attention to it, much less boring from that perspective. So I agree.
I think that's one like the biggest arguments against baseball. People watching it, they're like, "Oh, it's so boring. It takes forever." So I think it's really good for getting new people in. Even though like the last World Series was the most watched one, I think in a while. So it's been on the uprising, and I think they thought we had to do something new to get even more, and it worked.
Probably just because the Phillies were in it, though.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's save that because I would like to talk about that next podcast as well as we're starting to get into the swing of things with MLB. Thank you guys for tuning into the next podcast. Make sure you tune in for more playoff action. See if Kyle is awfully wrong about these Clippers, and see if the Sixers can pull out this series.
Scott Foster is gonna mess him up, so we'll see.